The Project Tribute Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to aiding our nation's first responders. Our vision and mission is to enhance the life-saving capabilities of our first responders through raising awareness and funding for the life-saving work that they do. Our goal with the podcast is to be an educational avenue and a method for our heroes to express themselves. In the podcast, we will discuss various tough subjects. Some of the subjects may be uncomfortable or controversial. Our guests have the right to share their thoughts and ideas, and for our listeners to hear the unedited words of our guests. The Foundation's role is to showcase a diverse array of thoughts and opinions within the first responder community. If you hear something that you do not agree with, please consider reaching out to us at projecttributefoundation@gmail.com and join our podcast. If you're a first responder and you would like to share your story, we truly would love to hear from you and learn from your experiences. Please enjoy this week's show, and as always, like, comment, and share to help us grow. You can find more information at www.projecttribute.com. Thanks and have a great one. Alrighty, guys. So we are back. It's been a bit since we filmed a podcast, and it's been a bit since Justin and I have filmed as well. So John with Project Tribute, and then we've also got Mr. Bryce. Bryce, again, is if you're looking to volunteer with Project Tribute, he's going to be your first point of contact. And his email is bryce@projecttribute.com, or just go on our website, projecttribute.com. And then there's a tab for volunteering. You can go in there and volunteer, be a board member. We also have a newsletter going on, so you can go fill out on the there's a subscribe to email, and just give us your email, and we'll put you on there. We're only trying to put out about one email a week. It's not spam. It's really just the news of what we're going on.
The meat and potatoes.
Yeah. I mean, and Lacey's been taking those over, so shout out to Miss Lacey Davis. We really appreciate you. But today we just got done doing a Facebook Live, or I guess a live across many channels. But we've got Mr. Justin Miller. So if you guys are not familiar, or if you're a longtime fan, Justin was one of our very first podcasts. So Justin serves as the chief for Dewey Fire, as well as he works for Bartlesville Fire. So at the time that we filmed last, you weren't the chief yet. You were still, it was 2 years ago. It's crazy how much has changed.
Yeah.
So you might slide that microphone just in front of you just a smidge. There you go.
That good.
That's better. So today we handed over TIC thermal cameras and for Dewey Fire, and those were courtesy of the Parsons Foundation. And then they also funded MPD rope devices, and that'll be our 9th one. So today we were able to fulfill 2 requests, one for Bartlesville Fire, one for Dewey Fire, and Mr. Justin serves on both, so he's going to be the representative for both, the unofficial representative, just so he doesn't get in trouble. So thank you for being here, man. I appreciate you. We've been here for about an hour or two now. So, okay, so it's been a bit, and the first question I try to ask every single person: tell me now your favorite thing that a civilian has ever done for you, be it in recognition or funniest story, like whatever, just your favorite thing when you think about what civilians have done to you, for you in your career. What's your favorite thing that comes to mind?
Honestly, it's just a good thank you.
Yeah.
Guys and gals in the service, they don't get that. That's number one, is definitely a thank you. It's a thankless job. Don't expect it, but at the same time, it's wonderful to hear. And I would say something that I've seen or something is being able to see somebody, who maybe we had an impact in saving their life, and we see them at Walmart and they recognize you, or their family member or something like that. That's always a wonderful thing, to see somebody that was in their most absolute worst time, and they're able to shake your hand. That's wonderful. That's why we do the job.
So Bryce actually got to walk into his first firehouse a couple weeks ago, and it dawned on me that you're the reason.
Oh, yeah?
So do you remember 2 years ago about providing flags?
Mm-hmm.
You called me, and so then I happened to stand in front of Charles Wirtz, and that's why he was the first person, and he's bought almost every flag since then as well.
Awesome.
So that's why we're calling it the Wirtz Flag Program.
Mm-hmm.
But Bryce got to step foot as we were delivering a flag recently, and he got to be in his first volunteer fire station.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that you've done it once, what do you think?
It was nice. They had definitely a tight-knit operation. Unfortunately, it wasn't under the best circumstances, but they had a good heart about it, and But it was definitely a cool experience to go in there and get to see the whole thing.
Yeah. So whenever I first asked you this question, it was very intimidating to think of the concept of me walking up to a firefighter. Like it's the craziest thing. And I said this at that refuge medical training the other day, that I was the least qualified person in the room. You know, and it's a weird feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. You're like, I don't think I should be in here.
Yeah. and so we just walked into the bay, and they were washing the trucks, getting ready for the funeral. And it didn't dawn on me, but 2 years ago, I felt exactly how Bryce did. And so that's why I started asking the question, because it's really awkward to go up to an engine with, 5 men and women standing there and go, "Hey, thank you." It's very intimidating, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, would you go up to an engine?
Maybe now that I've been in this role, but prior to that, I probably not.
Right.
At least not, if I saw somebody out and about, I'd like to, but I don't know if I'd walk right up to there and do that, just because part of it just like, I don't want to be in the way.
Right.
I don't want to intrude. So,
I mean, from your perspective though, please come up and say thank you. Please just acknowledge us.
Yeah. I enjoy people stopping in. It's the community's firehouse. It's not ours. I mean, that's our home away from home. We live there every third day if you're a career, and we're spending a lot of time on the volunteer side. Guys are putting in a lot of their hours, making sure that everything's good and everything's ready to go to the next call, and just being in the firehouse, whether it's career or volunteer, we have a lot of pride. And so when people have an interest, we enjoy that, because we get to share our love for the fire service with other people, especially people that don't know. You know, we really do enjoy, getting the visitors and things, and being able to show them our passion,
man,
anytime.
So we're going to just preface everybody that Justin is probably one of the most passionate folks. And I love every single time that you and I get to talk with each other, because you just, vomit knowledge on the fire service onto us.
It's probably just vomit.
Right. Yeah. His like, your phone hadn't been blown up yet, but it was when we were on live. So if you hear me interrupt them, it's because we're trying to keep this short and brief. And, but Justin's got some things that he wants to share. So, the other thing is, and I always want to ask this, and you and I probably already know the answer, but what's the one thing that you wish the community knew? Like the general citizen, a misconception, just one, but what's one thing you wish that a misconception you can dispel, or one thing that you wish that the general populace knew about firefighters?
Well, we're all human.
Yeah.
We're not Superman. We're just as vulnerable to any sort of trauma or medical event. What makes firemen is that typically they're A-type personalities. They don't believe in the word quit. And so it does make the fire service, EMS, and police a unique group of people, but we dedicate and sacrifice so much because it's more of a calling. We spend so much time away from our family that we'll never get back.
Right.
And as you start off in the fire, police, whatever, your passion, your pride, and everything, you're absorbed in your profession. But as time goes, and then you start having children, and then everybody goes through waves of transition of life. You have your ups and downs and everything. In the fire service, whenever you're in your downs, it's down.
Yeah.
You like to say you sacrifice your family. Time is always most important with your family whenever you're in the public safety. Sacrificing family is just absolutely something that I don't quite think that the public understands. There's a lot of times it's almost like as if we're just robots. Like, you are human,
Right.
So
I think as a civilian, it's super easy to fall into that, to just think, oh, well, they're here to help me, and then you kind of forget about it and move on. But a lot of people, I don't think about, like, that's your everyday going through that. And I think it's easy for other people to just forget and go about their day and not think about that. But especially when we were having that email conversation the other day, you're thinking like, I'm just walking around at home, and meanwhile these guys just finished up helping somebody out that was through something really, really traumatic. But you don't think about that. So
Yeah, so we received 3 emails that officers had used training from the refuge training that we just held, and I shared that with Bryce.
Mhm.
And you have that initial, man, that's so cool. And so then I pointed out, let's really think through that situation. They were with somebody in their final moments.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
that's
It's a big deal.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and so I shared with Bryce your story last time we talked, and how you guys live in that realm of seconds, and sometimes you got it, sometimes you ran out, and then you have to cope with that. And then in the volunteer agencies, I always point out to folks that you're going to get the call wherever you're at, Walmart, your work, whatever. You're going to go handle it. Whatever happens, and then you're going to go right back to where you were. Like, the professionals do a really good job of, let's sit down at the table and let's talk it through. You see a stronger lack in that on the volunteer side, because it's just not, especially some of these agencies, you guys, all right, I got to go back to dinner. And then there's not that decompress. And so that's the big thing to me with Project Tribute, is being able to advocate for you guys on that side of it, of, look, I don't think you understand what they see. Like, just yesterday alone, like, I wish I could just show people that some stuff, it's not meant for public consumption. And that's the part that, like, there's a couple times where I get around some of y'all and it's like, man, you're not okay today.
Yeah.
I mean, like, today, you're 2 years ago when you and I talked, there was some struggles. And,
Sure. Yeah.
And the thing that I love about the fireside is you guys are a lot, because of how you live together, you're quicker to call each other out, is what it seems like. So that's the one thing, like, the culture of fire is pretty impressive, but that's because you guys have a good house. There can be a bad house too.
Sure.
So
just like we're talking about, we're all human. A good officer in the morning, every morning starts out with a cup of coffee and guys around the table. That's just how it is. That's a great opportunity for an officer to assess his guys that are on shift that day mentally. Like, where are you at? Like, there's some captains I've worked for that they notice. They don't even have to talk to you. They know something's wrong, and they will, get you alone just to make sure you're in check. The military calls it battle hardened. Whenever there's been a GI that's been in battle for a long time, and then you got a new guy that's transitioning and he has never seen battle, and then he's like, why are you not taking this traumatically or something like that? And it's, well, he's been doing it. He's been in it. So,
well, that's what, it's just interesting. It's interesting to kind of gut check folks of I mean, I get a very small glimpse, and even that's pretty, like, man, you guys, it's just a tough world that you operate in, but you love every bit of it. And that's the thing that always excites me, is despite all the I don't know, the stuff, man, you guys do some great stuff. You suck at responding to text messages, but beyond
yes,
that,
you're not the only one.
No, and that's, I mean, just that, to me, it makes sense. And that's why, like, when Bryce and I started, I just warned him, like, hey, with first responders, just keep trying. Like, it's not you. Yeah. It's just their worlds are so hectic, and a lot of them are working 2 and 3 jobs. Yeah. I mean, I passed you doing one of your side gigs the other day, and that's, and so that's the world that's why Project Tribute exists to me, is that if I can get you the gear and take one more thing off your shoulders, that's the goal. So, so we've got in front of us, let me find the right camera angle here. We've got the MPD devices, which is a rope device. We're not going to dive too deep in that. We've got quite a bunch on our Facebook page. We also have a bleed kit. We've put lots of those out. That is our mainstay. But the big one is these thermal cameras. This is our first set of thermal cameras to hand out. And, can you dive in on what caused you to put the request into us?
Well, basically, it's the need in the like we spoke earlier. I started. So I've been with the Bartlesville Fire Department a decade. When I first started, there was just one thermal imaging camera. It was on the battalion chief's truck, and that's just how it is everywhere back then. And then with the sudden, like, it's almost like the industrial period in the fire service, the technology is just taking off. And then, of course, the technology of social media and YouTube, Facebook and all that, there's so much exposure in the fire service that all of this data is starting to just come together.
Yep.
Well, we went from however many years with thermal imaging cameras. Fire service has been using it since the 90s, but they really haven't implemented it until the last 10 years, but especially like in our local area, the last 5 years, for every single, at least officer would have a decision-making camera, which is a bigger camera, higher resolution, and has more functions to it so that you can have more space to save images and video and things like that with the thermal imaging cameras, bigger screens. Whereas these seat cameras are more of a situational awareness camera. And so they've made them compact and light that every firefighter, every SCBA, somebody wearing an SCBA, the pack that we use to breathe in superheated IDLH atmosphere, immediate to life and health situations, they can now have this on their pack,
right?
Instead of just having one officer, looking at a bigger camera and looking for victims, and also controlling the heat temperatures, showing where to put the stream, directing the crew that's inside working. If a guy needs to stop and figure out exactly what the captain that is directing the direction that we need to go on the interior of a zero visibility room with hot atmosphere, they can take these smaller lightweight cameras, and then it'll show the heat temperatures. It'll show this one's got 3 different functions. So with the fire function, it can do really well with finding the heat source, giving temperatures, and then showing glows. Like this one in this mode, I think is it's the black and white. I don't know if it's the black and white screen, but whenever you start getting temperatures that are 302 degrees, that's when it starts showing yellow.
Right.
So whenever you're in a burning building, you're going to see that the closer you get to the seat of the fire, you're going to be able to see the direction that you need to take the hose line to be able to put water on it.
So I think that you had provided some statistics, but ultimately the one that was the most shocking to me from the Facebook Live was that, instead of fighting in a matter of minutes, now you guys are fighting in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
And so the average response time is, Bartlesville's pretty good because we've got a pretty healthy fire department, but you're still looking 5 to 10 minutes to get on scene.
Typically in Bartlesville, it's in between now, depending. So the guys are going out on call right now. Sorry.
If you need to take that, we can pause.
No, we've got guys.
Okay.
Where was I at here?
So what Bartlesville's response time? What's that looking?
Yeah. So depending on when the dispatch is called to the fire station, we have 2-3 minutes to get on the truck and out the door. And then it usually takes anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes after that because of where the stations are located within the city.
So your response on scene arrival, 5 to 7 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, what about Dewey? Because Dewey's volunteer and it's a lot spread out. What's the rough response time in Dewey?
On a good day, about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It takes quite a bit longer to get the volunteers because they have to respond from home or wherever they are to the station. Sometimes we have guys at the station. Also, depending on the time of day or week, there may not necessarily be anybody available. So we have mutual aid from Copan Fire Department, Bartlesville Fire Department, in Dewey. I implemented that anything that is a working fire, Bartlesville and Copan are automatically dispatched to respond.
And that's the exciting thing is that, and that's our niche is rural agencies. That's who I really want to get the gear to, because if you're talking every second counts and you're already, minutes past what kind of the nearest town is, then if these cameras can get you in that building faster. And you had provided a couple of graphs. Do you want to go dive in those yet or not yet?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll get that on the screen. There we go. Okay, so let me get the right screen up here. So let's see here. This first one was the most it took what you were speaking of and made it real. So let's first share about the website. This came from, gotta find my mouse. Sorry, guys. So the first 3,000 rescues is that the website call?
No, so
Oh.
that's what this data collection is.
So this is the Firefighter Rescue Survey. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so the Firefighter Rescue Survey is a national United States survey. And, we were talking earlier about we've been the fire service for a long time. It wasn't until 2016-17 that they actually started taking rescue surveys, dead or alive victims, and putting in statistics of response, how they did it, where they were located, stages of when the fire was, where the fire was, just breaking down basically everything, and everything that is on this website. And I'm not affiliated at all with the rescue survey. I just think it's a wonderful tool, and the word needs to get out there because it's still not it's still not known, but it is a tool that firemen can use across the nation to basically get a breakdown of the likely of percentages for these victims, and it gets us better with the response.
Yeah,
gets us better with the techniques. It gets us better with the likelihood of what is possible, as far as finding victims in certain areas.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I've learned, and I've spent quite a bunch of time around the fire protection guys. So, I mean, even just in college, I shared in house with them for a summer. But it's data. You guys are very data driven. But it's data and numbers, and that's, I mean, the thing that I don't think folks understand is that being a firefighter, and some of y'all are going to take this too far, but you do have to have a pretty solid brain on your shoulders, because you're thinking through water pressures and temperatures and time in there and the off gassing. I mean, you got a lot of variables that you're trying to figure out. Plus, where are they in this house? And so that's the piece that it's always, every time I get in front of you, I'm always just shocked at the sheer volume of data that you're able to just like spurt out. It's more than I mean, granted, if we start talking food cost, I got you. Same thing. Like on the IT side, that's definitely your niche.
Yep.
So this was the graph that kind of stood out the most to me. It just.
So time versus survival percentage. So on the very first one, it's 2 minutes is a collective data for everybody that submits these. This is not, I mean, it's the first 3,000 rescues, but that's not the whole entire nation. It's only the departments or individuals that submit the data. So what they've collected with 3,000, so it's saying less than 2 minutes, the search time, and then the first bar is 81, and that's the 80% up there for survival rate, and then it goes down, and as you can obviously see, seconds count. 4 minutes to 6 minutes. It's search time 65, and then 68% survival rate.
I mean, at the 8 to 10 minutes, you're 50% survival.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's inside a burning home, right? That's wild. Because again, if you're talking, you're not on scene till somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes for most agencies. I mean, the average response time for ambulances is 11. I mean, granted, they're not going to the burning building, but still, like that's, you guys live in the 15-minute or less world, and at 15 minutes, it's a 30% survival.
Yeah. And I call them bread and butter fires. 1,200 square foot homes. From the time the brake on the fire truck pops, on average, it's usually within the first 5 minutes of the first fire truck getting there that they're actually finding the victims.
Wow.
And it's not like 20 minutes into it. Typically on a bread and butter fire, we've either got a really good knockdown on the fire, or we've got the fire under control in 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
But these people don't have 15, 20 minutes. That's why we've got to get there, and we've got to do our job, and we've got to get the victims. And that's why this data is out there, so that we can be better at it.
Yep. Well, and it goes back to these SEEK cameras, that if you can, with all PPE and all training, but you can get in there pretty quick and a lot faster with those, and try to find where's the survivable spaces. Now, can you use those on the exterior?
Oh yeah. You can even use these. The bigger thermal cameras would be a whole lot better with it, just because of the functions and the higher resolution and distance. But they're utilizing these cameras, even for the 360 walk around. That's usually the first thing the captain does when he gets off the truck. The firefighter is pulling the line, the driver's getting out, and he's getting the water established for the fire hose. The captain's getting around. He's going to go look at all 4 sides of the building so that he can get an assessment, maybe even see where potential victims could be. He's seeing where the potential seat of the fire is, if it's in the incipient small growth stage. It gives him a little bit of a look around, and he can also take a camera up around. And, with the heat temperatures that the cameras show, without the camera, you could look in a window and see smoke. Well, with a camera, you can actually see, okay, it's glowing yellow.
It's
so
there.
it's 300 degrees in that window.
Right.
You can look at conductive heat through, like, say, conduit or power lines or anything, electrical cords on the floor. You can do a lot of investigative things too after the fire is out as well with these cameras.
So there's a lot of data here. And so for folks to see, I mean, your biggest thing was just to show and make sure that other agencies knew that this website existed. Mm-hmm. And so we'll post this on our Facebook page as well as on all the links. That mm-hmm. way, if you see it on YouTube or any of the podcast channels, you'll have the links right there. There's a ton of data. Is there any other of these slides you really want to highlight?
Yeah, if you go down a little bit, there actually is one with the thermal imaging somewhere down there. But let's see.
Oh, speaking of, so Justin has a request in for smoke alarms for Dewey. So if you're looking for, hey, our company is willing to fund that, we've got an opportunity. But that's definitely a pending request out there that we could use help with is smoke alarms. I mean, 61% without it, so you have an 81% chance if there's a smoke alarm in the home. So that's one of his goals, was to get smoke alarms in every home of basically send them home with the school students. Mm-hmm. And so if you're interested, we've got an avenue, we've got a price. I just need some help with the funding side of it. All right, sorry, shameless plug
that's
there.
Smoke alarms save lives.
Yeah,
there's nothing else to be said about that. Smoke alarms save lives. Change your batteries every 2 years. Daylight savings. It's on down there. There's a whole bunch of stuff here.
Yeah, we're halfway through. I'll keep going. I mean, every one of these.
Oh, if you go up, that's something. Go on up a little bit. I think it's. No, never mind. It's on there somewhere. If I see it, I'll stop you there.
So while we're looking, if you guys are interested and you're listening, don't forget to check us out at www.projecttribute.com. You can also text and donate, and the text is 918-856-3977. You're going to text the word bleed kit, and that'll allow you the opportunity to submit a donation. And then the big thing is, if everyone listening could just do a $5 a month donation, we can really start making a difference and getting more gear in the hands of these rural first responders. So I didn't see the thermal camera one.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere, but it says something about like 40 or 50% or something was found with a thermal imaging camera. Oh, there it is. Down.
Oh, right there. Yeah.
Was a victim located versus total recorded rescues? TIC is 7%. That is so low. It's because thermal imaging, like I was talking about before,
they don't have it
with Bartlesville for a decade, and the last 5 years is really where the technology is finally being put into play,
right?
For not only fire attack, locating fires, but victim rescue. 7% were found with the TIC. 52% were found with the firefighter's eyes, hands. 28% ears respond to call out. 6% ears heard victim cough, cry, move. 7%. The TIC percentage, I'm really wanting to see that number go up, because it's going to explode if the resources are out there for the smaller fire. I think there's like 600,000 or 800,000 firefighters.
Yeah, Allison made a list of all the agencies just in Oklahoma, mm-hmm. and it was hundreds.
Yeah, and I wonder how many of those don't have access to thermal imaging cameras, or even still without the education behind why we use what we use. You can't just and it happens everywhere around
Well,
the nation. They'll hand you a camera and say, this shows you heat. This
Right.
shows you people, inside of a burning building. But there's a 32-hour class just based off of thermal imaging, from fire behavior to heat temperatures and different modes and things like that you can utilize. But
and if you don't take the class, you're going to instantly turn that on and turn it to Chinese mode.
yes, exactly right.
We've seen this firsthand.
But that percentage on that pie chart shouldn't be 7%. It should be 80%. They say they did some. We can look at it maybe later if we have time. But they've done a study on this other. There you go. Other website without a thermal imaging camera. They missed a victim 60% of the time.
Jeez.
And then with the TIC, they found them 70% of the time. Well, that's telling.
Yeah.
Well, in 18.2% of firefighter injuries due to being trapped or caught or lost, recently you and I were just talking about this, the two firefighters that passed away, one, it seemed like one got lost, one went to the same area. They both got lost. If they had the camera, that may have given them a better survival chance, at least to find a window, find a cold spot, figure out how to get out of the smoke. The one thing that surprised me, and it's funny that every time that somebody's grabbed one of these, they've held it like this. And you have to realize you guys are on your hands and knees crawling, and you're looking down. That's why, but everybody, myself
that's the first
included,
thing. Yeah,
everybody held it like this. It's like, nope, you need to hold it straight down because that's you guys are on the ground. You guys are living in on the lowest level. So,
well, it makes me wonder too. Like, clearly this is a technology people know about, but it makes me wonder how many, volunteer departments may, occasionally think they need it, but they may not think to request it, type of thing. Yeah, I don't know, unless maybe it's always top of mind. I don't know.
Yeah, so Hominy, I was talking to them about your request, and so then they submitted. They're like, "Oh, you do that too," and so that's and I can tell you that like Dewey, like you and Chief Surratt, you guys are like smoke eaters, and so if you guys don't have it, but are aching for it, then that tells me all I need to know is that you guys are going to seek out the best that you can for your folks.
Sure,
simple as that. And so if you're listening and you're like, man, how do I get on this list? You just need to go to projecttribute.com. There's an agency request form. Fill it out. Type in Seek Pro camera or whatever camera you want. The more expensive it is, the longer it's going to take me, but I won't quit.
Right.
So good point. Thank you, Bryce.
So that last website, Insight Fire Training LLC, Andy Starnes, he's the chief on the, I think, North Carolina somewhere on the East Coast. He's the one of the big dogs in the fire service as far as getting the thermal imaging training out there, and he has all sorts of information that is accessible. He does a lot of web seminars. You would just have to get on their website and contact if you want training, but he doesn't just keep it all, to himself.
Right there.
He wants this information out there. So he puts out so much content for fire departments to reach. And with that being said, I've got some notes that I had taken from him. He was giving off temperatures, and so the firefighter gear, it's not fireproof, but it is resistant, of course. So at 400 degrees, while a firefighter is inside of a building performing search or fire attack operations, at 400 degrees, 400 to 600 degrees, that firefighter then becomes, or that firefighter begins to start feeling pain because of the heat, right? So that is telling, because a lot of fire departments, and it's catching on a whole lot more with these thermal imaging cameras, but the temperatures that are on these cameras show you the heat temperatures. They show you when you need to start putting water on the fire. The UL research, FSRI as well, they preach if it's 200 degrees, put water on it.
Right.
Cool the surfaces, get the gas temperature down. At 109 degrees, a human without gear that we're wearing starts to feel pain. 130 degrees, human skin starts to burn. Okay, we're not feeling those temperatures in our gear. It's warm, but it's warm when you're outside when it's 100 degrees as well, right? 140 degrees, pain receptors turn off. That's 140 degrees. We're still not feeling those heat temperatures. 162 degrees, skin is destroyed with direct contact. 187 degrees, trachea swells shut with superheated gas exposure. We haven't even hit 200 yet, right? 200 degrees is...
So to me, like to bring it into the civilian world, if you get a hot plate of food at a restaurant, it's probably sitting around 165 to 170. Like minimum food temps is in that one, holding is the 145, cooking is 160. Like we cook food to 165.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So then you're operating in 300 comfortably. Right. So 400 is uncomfortable, but still. And then even 300, how long can you last in that environment?
300 degrees?
Yeah.
Well, it's all rated with your gear, but between 400 and 600 degrees, those temperatures are really starting to get hot. That's, like I said, that's when the firefighter's starting to feel pain. You're not supposed to be in that environment. Your water, or the hose is supposed to be flowing water. That's why they say around 200 degrees. If it's 200 degrees, and the only way you're going to know that is with a thermal imaging camera.
Right.
And because it's going to show you those heat signatures. But when the education's not out there, or the technology is not available to the fire departments to be able to get off the truck with it and go inside, they can't feel. They're just following the flow path. They're going towards the light, and they're hearing the cracklings because it's zero visibility.
Right.
But they're starting to feel the heat more and more and more. Well, you need to start putting water on the fire at 200 degrees. It doesn't matter if you don't see fire or not. You need to start soaking surfaces, because the last thing to flash is the floor. Once those gases start to gas off, if you start seeing the floor start visibly putting off gas, you're about to die in a couple seconds.
Wow.
Because it's going to flash on you. So that's another reason why these TICs are so important. It gives you, it's no different than if you're driving down the road in the middle of the night, you're going to turn on your headlights. Before you go to bed, you're going to take a look to the path of your bed so you don't trip on something, and then you turn out the light, right?
So, I mean, as far as you're concerned, this needs to be standard. If you're wearing your SCBA, you need to have, and Justin keeps saying TIC, that stands for thermal imaging camera. No, you're good.
No, I was actually going to say too, for someone who may not know, what do you mean by flash? The floor's about to flash if you see gas coming off.
That means that either that room or building itself is going to turn fully involved.
Okay.
Fully involved with fire.
Got it.
Is basically what that is. Yeah.
So you ever watch your fire pit? So it's smoking, and then it just ignites right? Because it's going to get to that ignition point, and then it's going to get all the things that's needed. Well, what happens in the house is that it's all compressed because the windows aren't open, so those gases start off putting kind of like you watch the steam off of a towel.
Yep. Same
thing. And so that their world is to control the gases and all the stuff kind of building up, and that's where like the whole backdraft thing, because the gases got built up, and then then it flashes, and that's where the doors get blown off and all the craziness.
You're in a oxygen deficient atmosphere. Well, what does fire want? Oxygen, right? It's got heat. It's got fuel to burn. You give it oxygen, it's going to light off, because that's its drug. Fire is a crack addict. It wants its drug. That's why we utilize our tactics with ventilation. So that, say you're going into a house, and you have to have a hose line in place, because if you start breaking windows or ventilating in any such manner, because there's several different ways, if you don't have a hand line, it might come get you, because you're going to be right in the flow path. Fire is going to find the quickest and easiest route up and out, whether it has to go through you or up through the ceiling. If somebody ventilates the ceiling, it's going to go up because it's quicker that way, right? So that's what it wants to do. And when you ventilate without a hose line, it's going to start getting bigger. So if you have a hose line in place, you start a ventilation, it's called a coordinated fire attack. That's whenever you're able to make the superheated gases, the fire, go out and exit. And then you're going to push that fire, and that I take it back. It's not, you're not pushing the fire, you're pushing the gases, right? And then you're making it go into a certain direction so it doesn't come back and get you.
Right.
So we use that with positive pressure ventilation with fans. We use that with vertical ventilation. That's why we cut holes in the top of the roof. We also use natural ventilation with window breaking and things like that. Anytime you open a door, oxygen's going to get in there, and that's exactly what the fire wants. So if you see smoke coming out of a building, the last thing you want to do is open that door. Last thing you want to do is break that window. if that's why the fire service teaches people, if there's a fire in your house and you can't get out and you're in a bedroom, close the door, get out a window. If a or pedestrian walks by and there's a house on fire and they kick open the door, you just fed it its drug. That fire is going to thank you for that.
And that'd be a lot of people's first instinct sometimes. If you're, trying to help out, you'd be like, oh, I just need to get in there. But in reality, you might be making the situation worse.
You got to have water because water is going to put it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of hitting up on the 45 hour limit. We've got your other website. Do you want to come back and do that, or do you want to run through that other website tonight? You got about 10 minutes to do.
Yeah, we can run through real quick. It's not. It's just the
Insight Fire Training. Do you want to play that video? I mean, I can.
I think if we I can pull it up here and I can read, because it's just this is kind of what I was hitting on here. You can pull it up on the data, and then I'll just read it off my phone.
Where was the data? The blog? Oh, yeah. Okay, so then that was the blog, and then we found fire service thermal imaging limitations, usage, maintenance and care. Which one am I looking for?
It's where are we at? It's not too terribly far down. Limited, modify down. Usage. Wait, no. Case. Yeah. Case for usage. All right. And then so I'm going down basically 3/4 of the way down.
The 20%, 27% of May days lost separated from hose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, May days. I'm sorry.
Those are, which, we can do that too. I'm going to read off this little section here because I think it'll really highlight the study that this department did. And this is off Insight Fire Training, Chief Andy Starnes. This is his website. This is his information that he had collected, I think, through several other people as well. I'll just go ahead and start reading. But so it says here, without a thermal imager, 60% of the time firefighters were unable to locate the victim. Jeez. With a thermal imager, 99% of the time firefighters were able to locate victim. 100% of the time firefighters found their way out of a burning house. The time required satisfactorily complete a search with a thermal imaging camera dropped by 75%.
Wow.
The August-September 2001 issue of Advanced Rescue Technology included an article about the thermal imaging study conducted by Johnson City Fire Bureau, Tennessee. Their research found that a victim search without a thermal imaging camera took 8 minutes, 38 seconds. With a thermal imager, the same victim search took 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Use of the thermal imager resulted in an increase of 60% in search efficiency. So that's just one little nugget out of this long article here, but it's cutting the rescue time down drastically.
I mean, that's 60%, 70% in some cases. Wow.
This, especially, like I was talking earlier before, the bigger cameras, those are decision-making cameras for officers. These smaller cameras that can be placed on the individual's pack. Anybody inside of a burning building should have access to a smaller situational awareness camera, which is what this is. And it's just a tool, just like we use with anything else. We have to have our SCBAs so that we can breathe fresh oxygen in the IDLH atmosphere. We've got to have a hand line with water in it. We've got to have tools so that we can use them for egress out of a building. And why wouldn't we be able to have a technology like this that shows you temperature, that shows you victims, that shows you where you need to place your water application for successful direct fire attack in an offensive mode? Why wouldn't you be able to have a camera like this for the officer on the outside that is in command of this incident? Why can he not have this type of technology to look and assess the exterior of the building? Not only is it good for reaching the seat of the fire with location, or finding victims? You can look with this camera and you can see if you're in a bad spot, if the roof's going to collapse. In these houses that are on fire, and we're in elbow deep in this superheated environment with zero visibility, we can actually look at these cameras and get temperatures and can get readings of these flow paths.
Yeah.
And we can recognize with the technology, instead of feeling it with our ears or the 1,000 bee stings on your arms, whenever it gets in the 400 to 600 degrees, we're able to stop that by saying, oh, it's reaching 200 degrees. Let's start opening the bale. Let's get water up in the atmosphere and cool off the surfaces and prevent flashover. Let's protect. We need to put water in front of the victims that could be in that area.
Yeah.
It allows us to search longer if we need to, so that we can be thorough. It allows us to find the victims quicker because we can find them with these cameras.
Reduces your time in house.
Exactly. It's the firefighter's best friend inside of an environment like that.
That's awesome. So really just the final question. And, I mean, you've been part of the foundation literally since day one. I mean, this office didn't exist whenever you first started, right?
Yeah.
And we've slowly grown, some days painfully, but so what does Project Tribute mean for you?
Resource for the life-saving tools that we're just not able to seek. You know, we can go through grants that take time, numerous hours to compile so that you have all your information right, and you can still turn that in and be denied. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well aware.
Yeah, it's just it's such a good life-saving avenue to go after for these. Everything that's been brought to the Project Tribute is legit, like the bleeding kits, like these, the rescue systems, the SEEK cameras. They all have immediate purpose.
Right.
Just like I was talking earlier, whenever the bell goes off and you get on the fire trucks, we're counting seconds.
Yep.
We have minutes to get there, but once we get there, we're counting seconds. Because the people that we go to, if you see a fire truck in the bay and all the lights are on, that means nobody at that current moment is having the worst day of their life. But when that truck rolls out, lights and sirens, somebody is having the worst day of their life. So being able to have access to items such as these, it's making a huge impact on the community, because it's basically cutting the red tape to be able to provide the most efficient life-saving efforts with the tools. And it's just, I can't thank Project Tribute enough. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing that it exists. So thanks.
Yeah. That's so weird. I don't know why, but some reason I did it. So why not? Man, I appreciate you. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask before we kind of wrap it up?
No, I think I kind of asked as I went. I was going to compile them, but I think I kind of asked as we went.
Yeah. Well, there's so much. There is every time, like I said, I knew I was like, man, I got to get Bryce in front of Justin, because I appreciate that. It is so easy to be able to go, hey, tell me what you need, and go find it and advocate for it, and know that I can bring you to the table if somebody's saying, I want a firefighter, tell me about it. All right, let's put Justin in front of you. And so you guys are easy to go do all the work for, and it's well worth it to be able to serve you all, because you have enough to worry about. I mean, you've got 2 jobs plus your other job plus your kids. So if what we can do is make sure that you walk out of that building and somebody in tow, hell yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Yep.
So
this tool will do it right here.
Awesome, brother. All right. So if you're listening and you're like, because I hope everyone shares this, I really do. And we'll take some snippets out of this as well. But if you're listening and you want your department to have some of these cameras, give me time. We're writing grants and we're getting a lot of no's and some yeses. So it could take 2 years, but it's 2 years of my effort and none of yours, except that one form. So how to do it is go to www.projecttribute.com, click the agency request form. And actually, while I got the website up there, let me find my mouse. There it is. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, so all you do is go to the agency request form, you click fill out the form, and you fill it out. And that's it. It's what's your name? How do I contact you? What do you need? That's it. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. From there, I'll go do the rest of the work. The only ask is that what you're asking for from us must have a life-saving capacity to it. And then we also ask you to help us. I mean, just, ensure that it goes, that you guys go on our Facebook page and encourage your department to go like us. Same thing when you guys get loaded up, take some photos, have your folks, just a tag. Hey, thanks, Project Tribute. That helps us show the donors we're doing the work. When they go search Project Tribute, that's how North Dakota, an agency up there, found us, was because it was a spouse that she was a nurse and found out her husband doesn't have a tourniquet, and she didn't like that. So she Googled tourniquet, I guess, and then found us. But it's through folks tagging us that it's making it where we're appearing. And so I was called the other day. I was like, "You're the tourniquet guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take that. Why not?" From all the other names that I've earned, I'll take it. So projecttribute.com, agency request form. And then if you're a donor and you're like, "Man, I want, tax year or taxes are coming up, what have you." So under donation request, we've got every single request that's been submitted to us. And as we're plugging through it, so if you're like, "Man, I got $300 I want to spend," right here, we've got Newkirk Police Department, or, if you need, the defibrillators at $28,000. So if it can save a life, we'll put it on here and try to fund it.
Yep.
So you can go and just say, "Hey, here's money to go put it in line," or you can go be very specific and say, "I want to help this agency." So like if you're from the Tryon, area and you've got $500, or you can talk your boss into donating $500. You can say, "Hey, we want to sponsor this one."
Absolutely. Or even if you can only afford $5 a month, I mean, anything that we can get helps.
So, and I mean, that's where these are the donations. I mean, the Parsons Foundation, thank you. I mean, these are all tools that will be in the trucks for as long as the tools last. I mean, the rope devices, that hopefully is ages, but I've seen you all break better things.
Those go pretty quick. I mean, 10 years and they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yep. So you guys are definitely hard on equipment, but to the Parsons Foundation, thank you. To all of our other partners and donors, thank you. Without your help, we couldn't have done this. So we found out of some life-saving measures taken yesterday. So far, year to date, we're at $200,000 of gear that we've put in the hands of first responders, and that's equated to 11 lives saved. And I would venture to say that just with these alone, that number could climb pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, roundtable to wrap it up. Bryce, what you got?
That's about it. Thank you, obviously, for what you do, and seriously hope that those come in handy.
I appreciate it. My pleasure. And man, I'm telling you, it's a wonderful thing. It's there's several departments with way less budget than the volunteer fire department that I'm with. It takes things like this to make things like that happen.
Yep. And so that's the biggest thing. And if you're listening, it also takes you guys to help us continue to grow. So hit that like button, hit that share button, tell people we exist. They are finding us through social media. So help the donors find us as well. So
if you can donate, that's great. Even if you can't afford to donate, you can go and sign up on our volunteer tab on our website and submit a form to us there, and we can reach out to you and give you some opportunities there to just volunteer with us and help out our first responders and go to events, let people get the word out and whatnot. So,
all righty, guys. Well, so until further ado, I'm going to sign off. Hopefully we can get the other one off of the Chinese mode. So, Justin, thank you, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
This podcast is hosted by the Project Tribute Foundation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to aiding our first responders. Thank you for listening. For more information on our efforts, check us out at www.projecttribute.com. If you're a first responder that would like to share your story, contact us at projecttributefoundation@gmail.com. You can find us on various social media and podcast sites by searching the Project Tribute Foundation. 100% of donations are used to save lives, while our retail store pays for any of our operational costs. Thank you again, and please be sure to like us, follow us, and share our foundation with your friends. Thank you, and have a great day.